How about that cigar?
How about that cigar?
Good evening. It is Tuesday night, our favorite night of the week, and welcome everyone to episode number
37.
Boom, episode number 37 of How About That Cigar. Thank you everybody so much for joining us. We are live on Facebook. As always, you will find us here on Tuesday nights. If you are watching after the fact on YouTube, thanks so much for watching us as well. We appreciate that. Take a moment, if you would, please subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on the audio podcast after the fact, also, we want to thank you for giving us some of your time while you work out or drive down the road, whatever it is you do while you listen to podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. We come to you every week live from the Drew Estate Cigar Studios, and we thank you so much for joining us. I would like to take a moment, if I could, to tell you a little bit about the Pappy Van Winkle Family Reserve Barrel Fermented. It is a long filler premium cigar rolled in limited quantities at La Gran Fabrica Drew Estate in Esteli, Nicaragua. Deep barrel fermentation is the key process that makes this expression vastly different from anything on the market. Hand-selected leaves from Kentucky are packed into small torquettes, which are loaded strategically into oak bourbon barrels. Water is then added while immense pressure is applied to the torquettes with railroad jacks. The tobacco is removed 2 to 3 times per year, shaken out, then repacked. The total process of fermentation takes 12 to 18 months, leaving a truly unique flavor profile and aroma. The Pappy Van Winkle's Family Reserve Barrel Fermented is now available at brick and mortar Drew Diplomat retailers.
Yes.
So thanks again to our wonderful sponsor, Drew Estate, for that information. Garrett, an interesting week in the NFL. So I know Garrett doesn't like to talk about the NFL because his team loses and mine wins. So sorry. That was dirty. But so my team, the Green Bay Packers, beat a really horrible Giants team. Yeah. I mean, the Giants are 2-8 and we beat them, so big whoop. But we needed to win. Yeah. And while I don't really care if the Vikings play somebody other than the Packers. But this was one of those situations where the Packers really needed for Minnesota to lose. I wasn't rooting for them to lose. It just worked out that way.
Yep. Well, and the really frustrating part is, and they kept putting up the playoff picture during the game last night. Where, the Seahawks 9-2 and Minnesota 8-3 were the wild card teams. And then you've got freaking Dallas.
Yeah.
Sitting at 6-6, leading their awesome division. And that was annoying.
Yeah. The fact that in the playoff picture, the Cowboys are higher than the Niners is disgusting. I mean, as good as the Niners are this season, the Niners embarrassed my Green Bay Packers. They embarrassed them. Yep. They're a great team this season.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Cowboys are above them in the playoff picture just shows what a broken system the NFL is.
Yep.
But there's been some great play this season. There's been some horrible play as well, but there's been some really great play. And I'm excited to see what comes in the coming weeks. The Packers close out the season with 3 out of 4 of our final 4 games are division games.
Yep.
Very important. So we have to play the Vikings again, and then Detroit and Chicago. You don't want to call them giveaways because they're division games, but definitely the toughest test left for the Packers this year is the
coming
Vikings.
To Minnesota.
Yeah. And playing in Minnesota, US Bank
we haven't
Stadium.
Lost a home game.
Yeah, it's very, very tough win. To win in that stadium if you're not the Vikings. The Minnesota Golden Gophers football.
I don't want to talk about that either.
I know it was tough. And I don't want to take anything away from what a phenomenal season they've had.
I mean, this is the best season they've had in over 100 years.
But you really wanted them to, just make a statement at the end of the season against Wisconsin.
Yeah, that we're for real,
Now, I will say this, just purely as a fan of the game, it was a great game to watch.
It was a good game.
You want to see a snowstorm and you want to see people playing outside in the snow, but they just could not get any momentum against. And I don't know, I don't know where that Wisconsin defense was the rest of the season, or sorry, that Wisconsin offense was the rest of the season, because they could not score points this season, and then all of a sudden they just rolled all over the Gophers.
They did. Yep. And we couldn't stop the Badgers, and typically our defense has been a little bit better than that, but the offense is what's really shined in Minnesota, and we couldn't get that going.
A lot of drop passes, a lot of missed passes. The quarterback was not on his game. He was throwing long, throwing shorts. So whether that was a miscommunication or just a bad arm, I don't know.
Or just the nerves.
Yeah, could have been nerves.
Big game.
Yeah. So, but it was fun to watch. And Minnesota Wild, again, they're mediocre. I don't know what else to say about them. They're a game over 500, but they're just mediocre.
Yeah, they either crush it.
They're playing right now as we speak. I don't remember who they're playing, but
I don't either.
They are in a live game right now. So again, thanks everybody for watching episode number 37 of How About That Cigar. Take a moment and share us out to your favorite Facebook cigar groups. And we're going to bring in our special guest right now. Our special guest is brought to you by Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com. It is the internet's largest and easiest to use virtual cigar store. Corona Cigar Company offers you the finest handmade cigars, humidors, and cigar accessories at the absolute lowest possible price. At Corona Cigar Company, they take pride in being cigar fanatics just like you and me. That is why you will find the best selection of the rarest and finest premium cigars available anywhere in the world. Choose from famous brands like Padron, Davidoff, Fuente, and hundreds more. If you live in Florida or are just visiting, be sure to visit any of the great Corona Cigar locations in downtown Orlando, Sand Lake, Lake Mary, and also the Davidoff of Geneva Lounge in Tampa. For more info on all of that, please visit coronacigar.com and floridasungrown.com. So we would like to right now welcome to episode number 37 of How About That Cigar from Crowned Head Cigars, Mr. Miguel Schoedel. Miguel, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you guys for having me on the show, man.
Fantastic. Awesome. We really appreciate your time. So tell everybody where you are coming to us from.
I am coming to you from a part of Florida outside of Fort Myers called Babcock Ranch, Florida. I moved down here about a year ago from my hometown, Cincinnati, Ohio, and all the memorabilia around me is all Cincinnati Red stuff. And so, I'm coming to you live from Florida. It's actually a little chilly down here for them.
A little chill. So we're talking like 72?
60s.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
for Florida, that's
they're freezing down here. To me,
weather.
I think that's shorts weather, man.
So about a week from today, so next Tuesday when we do the show here in the studio, the outside temperature is going to be about 0.
Good round number. I like that.
Yeah, that is good. It is. That is a good round number.
No tobacco beetles.
No, well, that's true. Yeah, if you're worried about your a shipment of cigars you just got in, just set them on the front porch. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
So Miguel, you're with Crowned Head Cigars right now, but give everybody. We always like to talk to people about their cigar origin stories. So tell us that first time that you sat down with a premium hand rolled cigar, and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, I grew up around family members that smoked premium cigars. By the way, I have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize if I'm a little raspy or whatever. So I grew up around cigars, all the men in my family. I think it's very part of the Latino culture is cigars. And so grew up around them. I was very infatuated with them since the early 90s. I always thought they were really neat and cool. And obviously your uncles or your brothers and men, your father, you look up to, they always have cigars. So my first handmade premium cigar was in 1995, 96. It was an Opus X, Perfection X. Smoked that in the garage with a bunch of my brother's friends. And we smoked one cigar with among like 7 guys, passing it around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Didn't know the proper way to smoke a cigar back then. And so that was my first real experience with premium tobacco. And it was a love affair since 95, 96. In 98, I fell in love with a brand called CAO Linaversar Maduro. That was my brand that it struck me. It was my favorite cigar. It was everything that I loved about it. It was box pressed. It was dark. It had this beautiful red band, came in a really nice wood box. And that's really what set my love affair for the industry as itself. In '98, I said to myself, man, I'd love to do this one day for a career. And luckily now, after all these years smoking a lot of cigars, I've been in the business. This will be, I think, my 17th year in the business.
Wow.
That is awesome.
So you, right out of the gate, you know, it's not a Havatampa, it's not a Swisher Swede, it's not a Grenadier. Right out of the gate, it's an Opus X. So
and back then, the very first shipment of Opus X that went out, they were all pretty much on the East Coast, Midwest, and basically Mississippi East is where they were all released. And the very first boxes were slide top. A lot of people don't know that the second shipment is when they came with the traditional box that you see now that open, regularly. The very first shipment were slide top boxes. And I got one of those cigars out of a slide top box. I put $20 on the register for a cigar shop and said, "Give me your best cigar." And they had just received. It literally was like on the end of '95 to the beginning of '96. It was around that time period, and so jumped full in feet right away. And back in the '90s, Dominican cigars ruled the market.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
they 8 out of 10 cigars in a cigar shop were Dominican made. And so that was kind of.
Wait, you were underage.
Yes, I was underage, but I'd been around tobacco and I've been around cigars. And I think that's a lot of people's story.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
Absolutely.
It wasn't, it's not like cigarettes that would advertise on billboards at that time or in a lot of magazines. It was something culturally that I saw the men do in my family that I really wanted to be a part of. And so in '96, I really wanted to get into that. And I still have the very first Cigar Aficionado ever published from '92.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
That my mother bought for me. Yep. I still, I have some great memories of that first kind of, but I wouldn't have called myself a real cigar smoker until about '98. That's really where I bought my first box of cigars. And started, bought a humidor and became full on addicted, not to cigars, but to the culture.
The culture. Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely. So I know you've had experience with a few different cigar companies, but I also want to get a feel for what you did, what some of the jobs were you had before you started working in cigars. So what are some of the things that you kept yourself busy with before cigars?
Well, my father was like Al Bundy, right? His whole life was shoes. My father, from being a teenager to the day he died, he sold shoes. So as a kid, I cut my teeth on selling shoes with my dad. So I always had this soft spot in my heart for. My father had a store downtown Cincinnati on Main Street. You could go in there and buy shoes. He had a shoe repair too. He had an old man back there that would repair your shoes, because that was the thing back then. And I'll never forget my father's store. He put in a mini little basketball court so guys could try on their gym shoes and try their jump shot before. And later on, many years later, there was a company called, I think, Just for Feet or something like that. That was kind of their claim to fame, that they had a basketball court in their store. But my father did that way back in the day. So that was one. And then growing up in Cincinnati, I worked for the two organized crime families of Cincinnati, the Gold Stars and the Skylines. I actually worked for both growing up. And it's like working for two different mob families in New York. I'm trying to get people to understand. It's like literally working for, in that case, the Jordanians and the Greeks, and so I worked for both. I crossed the line, and then I worked in jewelry. I had an opportunity to get in the jewelry business as a young teenager, and so that's what I did. And it was handmade jewelry from Mexico, Indonesia, Italy, all over the world. And I got to work in that industry, which led me to eventually meeting people in the cigar industry, and then begging CAO Cigars, Tim Osgener at the time, for a job.
So yeah, tell us about how that came to be, where you started earning a paycheck in the cigar business.
So I worked in the jewelry business, and I would go to the big smokes in Chicago in '98, '99. And like I said, 98, my favorite company was CAO. So I would go there and I'd bug the crap out of them. And I would always joke with Tim Osgener, who at the time was the vice president. His father was the founder of the company. And eventually Tim became the president of the company. I would just bug Tim at events. If he was going to be in Columbus, Ohio, I'd drive to Columbus. If he was going to be in Chicago, I would drive to Chicago to meet him. And this is the late 90s, early 2000s. And I'd say, Tim, one day I'm going to work for you, man. One day I'm going to work for you. He was very kind to me. He would send me samples of stuff that they were working on, Brasilia and things like that before they came out. And he, probably just to be nice or whatever, he'd say, what do you think about this? Probably never took anything I said serious, but he was just very kind to me. And so I'll never forget, he calls me one day and he says, hey, I'm going to be in Cincinnati for an event next month. And I said, yeah, I know you are. I'll be there. He said, well, I want to make sure you come because I want to talk to you. So when he came, he did the event. And after the event, he said, you know how you're always threatening you're going to work for me? He said, I'll tell you what, I can get you an interview. We're going away from brokers. At that time, the majority of the industry was brokers. Mm-hmm. Rocky was still using brokers. Perdomo was still using brokers. Basically, everybody was using brokers with the exception of General Altadis, Davidoff, Ashton, Fuente Newman. Well, Newman is their brokers. And that was basically it. If you didn't work for one of those 5 companies, you were a broker. So, I mean, nobody was using. So CAO made that decision before a lot of these other companies did that they were going to go in-house. And so Tim says to me, hey, I can get you an interview. He's the vice president of the company. He said, I want my national sales manager to make that decision, but I'll get you an interview. And after a long, extensive time, I went through several interviews with them in Nashville. CAO's headquarters at that time was probably the size of 2 hotel rooms, and it was very small. And I did the interview in John O. Osgener, who's a legend in this business. I did the second interview in his basement at his house. And Mike Conder was there, who is one of the owners of Crown Heads. John Huber, I met in person at that time too. And after it was me and one other guy. The other guy was older than me, had more experience than me, was probably better spoken, better dressed than me. But for some reason, they gave me the job. And I spent 7 phenomenal years at CAO working for Eileen Osgener and John O. Osgener and Tim Osgener. And that's where I met Mike Conder and John Huber and spent 7 incredible years there and absolutely loved my time there.
Nice.
Just one of the best families that have ever come through the premium cigar industry.
One, just to let everybody know what we're smoking right now, too, is this beautiful new release and collaboration.
I'm trying to get it to focus, but it just won't. The La Coalición.
La Coalición. That's our new collaboration with Drew Estate, Willie Herrera, John Huber. That's the 2 men that came together, worked on the blend. They worked on the name. They worked on the sizes, the packaging, total collaboration from start to finish. And we're very proud of it. I've actually got a box right here. I wish I was smoking it, but I don't feel too good.
And how long has this project been in the works?
I would say there's 2 ways that I answer that question. I would say over a year to 2 years of real hands-on, but I think between John and Willie, longer than that. They've wanted to do something together longer than that. They've been friends for a very long time. They've always talked about doing something together. But it's like anything else. You want to work on a project and you wait for the right time, the right place, and everything come together. And it came together. And the fruits of that labor is La Coalición. 4 different vitolas, broadleaf, beautiful broadleaf wrapper. And I'm so happy that it's out there now and it's in people's hands, and we're already getting reorders. We had a conversation today about it at the office, and it's been overwhelmingly positive, and we're very happy with that.
Yeah, it's starting out really nice.
It is, yeah. First one for me, though I really, really wanted to smoke one yesterday, but wanted to give it the first go on the show here with you tonight, and it's beautiful.
Well, broadleaf is in very short supply right now. It's in very high demand.
Yeah, we keep hearing that from everybody we've interviewed. The broadleaf is like
broadleaf,
your hands on.
Broadleaf it's really putting a hurting on a lot of people's broadleaf cigars out there. I mean, we have a line called Le Carême. that uses a lot of broadleaf. So everyone's kind of hurting for broadleaf, but very blessed in our sense that working on this project with Drew Estate, that they opened up their aged tobacco room to us to be able to get our hands on broadleaf, because right now, if we had to go out to the open market to get broadleaf, it'd be impossible. So the fact that they've opened up their how would you call it? Maybe their reserves, if you will, of broadleaf to us for this project means the world to us. So everyone's hurting for broadleaf. We're very proud. We have a broadleaf cigar that just hit the market.
Does this look like a limited release then?
It is not. It is a full production release.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yep. There's 4 Vitolas, but this is a full-on production. We have dabbled with them with Paniolo and the Buckeye Land, some regional or limited release stuff, but this is our first full-on project that will be an ongoing project.
And this is the Toro Vitola that we're smoking right now, the 6x52. Yeah, it's really starting out nice. So, and I was really glad that these shipped out, because I remember hearing about it, the buzz before IPCPR and then during IPCPR, and it was a welcome addition to a lot of humidors. And you hear about so many different cigars you put on your list saying, okay, I got to try that one, I got to try that one, got to try that one. This one's definitely easily in the top 5 of cigars, like got to try that one, got to try that one. So very excited it finally hit the stores.
Thank you, man. And ones you guys are smoking, that's that more traditional Toro called the Siglo. We call it the Siglo. And that to me is, that and the Corona Gordo are my 2 favorite sizes. So
yeah, Corona Gordo will definitely be next on the list to try. So take us back again a little bit. So you had some great years with CAO, and then where did you go from there?
Well, so the last year I was there, CAO sold to STG, Scandinavian Tobacco Group, and which people probably aren't too familiar with that name, but they're a huge, corporate conglomerate in Europe. Then they bought 51% of Swedish Match at that time, who also owned General Cigar and CI and all that. So eventually they were going to merge, and I think they wound up buying them out completely. So we knew that something was going to change. We knew that in Europe, Swedish Match, I think, was being absorbed into STG because STG was larger. In the States, General was obviously much larger than CAO, although CAO was a considerable size company as well. And so we knew that there was going to be all these mergers. So a lot started to change that last year I was there. And my loyalty to Huber, to Mike Conder, to the whole Osgener family is second to none. I remember doing an event with Tim Osgener towards the end there, and Tim said, hey, look, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and I respect any of you guys who maybe want to spread your wings and look for other opportunities, because things were changing. And this is the Osgener family that took care of me when I had a brain tumor. I had a brain tumor and I was sick for 6 to 8 months. They took care of me that entire time. And so I had a great loyalty to them. And so when I got kind of the blessing from Tim to go look elsewhere, at that time we were distributing Tarano, and Tarano was making the vast majority of CAOs at that time. Charlie Tarano then approached me and said, hey, look, I'm going to take distribution back when the company is completely merged with General. There's a home here if you want to come over. So I made the move along with Brian McGee, who is our Crown Heads rep in Texas, Armando Lapido, who is now with Gurkha. He made the move as well. So all 3 of us moved over to Tarano, and I became their national sales manager at Tarano Cigars. Was there for 5 years, had a great time there. I got to create my own cigar called Salutum. Charlie Tarano is truly one of the classiest guys in the business. And while I was there, I got to meet Jack Tarano, and I already knew Jaka Tarano. Jaka, who does logistics for Gurkha. Jaka's a fantastic man. And I got to meet Jack, who is one of the funniest, best, kindest hearted guys I've ever met in my life. So met a lifelong friend there, and spent 5 solid years with Tarano. And then, happens again. You build the company up in sales, and then General Cigar took notice of what we were doing and made an offer to Charlie to buy Tarano. And so we were all kind of unceremoniously kind of let go, because General was going to take it over and didn't need any of us there.
Yeah.
So that was that. So that was the end of that chapter.
Yeah. And then immediately after that, was that when you were with Duran Cigars?
Yeah, so immediately the day the news broke, I was probably 7 or 8 different offers were made to me to come on board. I mean, there were just some incredible cigar makers that offered me opportunities to join them, but there was one that really interested me because Roberto Duran Pelayo, I knew him as Roberto Pelayo. Roberto Pelayo Duran is his full name. I knew Roberto because when we were at CAO, we distributed not only Tarana, but we distributed Dunhill as well. And Dunhill had made Roberto, who used to work for Habanos SA, the face of kind of that brand, of the premium cigar brand. He was based out of Vancouver. And so we were distributing those cigars, and he was the representative for Dunhill Premium Cigars. So he wound up leaving that to start his own factory, Nica Tobacco, in Nicaragua. He started his own farm called Finca Sasan in Ecuador. And what really interests me was, obviously, I was very familiar with him, and he was going to teach me the tobacco side. So I spent a lot of time. We went to Cuba, spent a lot of time in Nicaragua, and spent a lot of time in Ecuador learning the tobacco side of the business. So I probably spent maybe 3+ years around something like that with him, and had a great time with Roberto. It was a very small brand state-wise. You know, we had maybe 500 accounts US. But as far as Canada, Hong Kong, Asia Pacific was the main market for his cigars. But the real part of our business was tobacco, brokering tobacco. And so that was an experience I'll never forget. And then I got an offer from another cigar company that I was really considering. And I called my buddy Mike Condor up, one of the owners of Crown Heads. And I said, Mike, I'm going to be in Nashville. Do you mind if I come by and talk to you? And just, I want your advice, a guy I really respect. And by the time I walked out of that office, he had offered me the national sales manager job for Crown Heads. So for me, it's full circle, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I started cutting my teeth with Osgeners, with John Huber, with Mike Condor, this whole travel through the industry, and then to be able to end up back with those guys, working with them, has been for me a dream come true. So I feel very blessed.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what year was that you started with as a national sales manager at Crown Heads?
It's got to be 2 years.
Okay,
probably about 2 years. Yeah.
And you're so right about that. We've mentioned this before on the show with so many other people that, I mean, business relationships are really important regardless of what kind of line of work you're in, but there's something different about the cigar business where relationships are so much more key. And, like you said, you got to know so many people throughout your different stops on the journey, of working in the cigar business. And, you build those relationships, and you make a reputation for yourself. And you did this as, a reputation for yourself as a, somebody who not only gets things done, but also, does things the right way. And that just leads you, back into, those guys, from Crown Heads saying, hey, we want you on this team. We want you to be on this team. And what does that mean for you to have people come to you and say, we've got this spot and we can't think of anybody else to fill it but you?
To me, I feel very blessed. I think that when you're in the industry, if you make a good name for yourself, you're a hard worker, and your reputation is that you show up on time, you do the job, people can count on you, and you run your business with as much passion day one than day 17, there'll always be a position for you in this business. And that's something that I've been very blessed of. I feel very lucky that I got to cut my teeth at Crown Heads because they were kind of starting off new with in-house guys. They had always dealt with brokers, so they were kind of starting something new, and I got to be on the ground level of that. And remember, at that time, I was in my early 20s, right? And most of the guys that were brokers in the industry or reps in the industry were in their 40s to 50s. So I was very much kind of out of the loop as far as age, and I really got to learn from a lot of great people in the business. Mickey Pegg was our national sales manager over there. A couple other guys that came through that were just fantastic. Gary Heim, some good names. And as long as you do your job and you do it honestly and you do it right, there'll always be a position for you in this business. So I feel very blessed that John and Mike have put their baby in my hands and allowed me to help, continue to grow it and help build this thing called Crown Heads. So I feel very blessed to work with those two gentlemen. And just work hard. I think it goes to anybody. Just be yourself, be a hard worker, and the industry will recognize that and reward you for that. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's an industry of passion, and if you can keep that passion lit, this industry will take very good care of you.
Yeah, that's so true. Because there's just something very unique about this business, and all the people that we've been fortunate enough to talk to, yourself included. There's such a unique vibe and unique attitude around the people who have success in this business, and it's really so people driven. It's so culture driven. You know, it's not so much product driven as it is culture driven and people driven, and I think that's one of the strongest parts about this business is the people who make all the way from the people who plant the seeds to the people who sell the cigars at the shops. And then the end consumers, you know, of course, which I mean, without them, you know, we could all just pack it up, but every part along that journey, every stop along that journey is so important, and it's great to be able to get to know the people who make it run and the people who make it work, and the passion that goes into it. That's one of the things that we love so much about it.
Yeah, and the truth is that we're kind of the end of the product, right? I mean, you know, I work on the sales side, and we have a consumer side. We're literally the end, the tail of the animal, right? I mean, there's so much more that happens before it gets to us, and so, you know, the people that are planting the seeds, that are the farmers, especially the farmers, are very passionate about what they grow. It doesn't matter if they're a farmer in Indiana growing corn, if it's a farmer in Florida growing palm trees, or someone in Nicaragua growing tobacco. Farmers are very proud of what they do. And so to me, part of our job is not only to be passionate about the brand that you sell, but be passionate about the creation of this product that we call a cigar. And you know, look, the history of cigars, of premium tobacco, is very long, right? Yeah. And we're a small sliver of the history of this great plant. And so, you know, do it justice and be passionate about it. And that's something that, you know, I talk to John Huber on a daily basis, and, you know, his passion for the leaf, for the cigar is very, very easily seen, and it makes me get excited every day. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I want to shift a little bit because I've always enjoyed watching. You know, when Coop and those guys do the baseball show, I've always enjoyed watching that for the last few years that they've done that, and you've been a key part of those conversations. And so you may not know this, but I was born in Richmond, Indiana, so just over the border, and we spent a lot of time going to Riverfront Stadium, you know, in the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s, and so as a kid, you know, growing up down in that area, I was an absolute diehard fan of the Big Red Machine, and I even talked to Hector about this last week, that I consider it an absolute honor, the fact that I got to go to Riverfront and see some of those guys play in person. And so you and I have that in common, you know, although, you know, living in Minnesota for more than 20 years now, you know, I do consider myself a Minnesota Twins fan, but the Reds always have a place in my heart. And tell us about you know, what the Cincinnati Reds mean to you as a fan, and what your journey as a Cincinnati Reds fan has been all about.
Well, I wasn't born a Reds fan, I can tell you that. My mother is from Chicago, Illinois. She was born on the South Side, so you'd think she'd be a Sox fan, but her parents, who were immigrants from Mexico, raised her to be a Cubs fan.
Okay.
So at a very young age, we moved to Cincinnati. I was not born in Cincinnati, but I got there as fast as I could. I was probably 3 years old. So growing up in Cincinnati, we went to Riverfront all the time. Yeah. It wasn't my father that was into baseball. My father was into football and golf. My mother is the person who would drag us to Riverfront Stadium. Every time the Cubs came to town. It didn't matter if it was, you know, what was going on. We went to Riverfront. And you can't help but live in a city and be bitten by the passion And I'm telling you, I don't care what baseball city you're from. Professional baseball started in Cincinnati. We have a 150-year history of baseball. Opening day parade in Cincinnati is like the longest ongoing opening day parade in baseball history. It is a holiday here.
Yeah.
Cincinnati lives and breathes baseball. We have a real deal museum here that if you've never seen, it is one of the best museums you'll ever see in baseball right here in Cincinnati. The team has history. The Reds are, to me, everything passion-wise. You know, people, I love cigars. That's what I do. That's what I love smoking. But what do I love to do? I love to have a cigar and listen to the Reds, watch the Reds.
Yeah.
I am a baseball fanatic in every which way. I think the Reds, after living there so many years in Cincinnati, my mother tried so hard to make me a Cubs fan. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for the Cubs. But I became a Reds fan at a very young age and just fell in love with guys like Pete Rose and Barry Larkin, because in Cincinnati, we take so much pride in how many baseball players that have come through Cincinnati to play for Cincinnati who were born in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so Barry Larkin was the guy I grew up watching. Pete Rose, he was the local boy from the west side of Cincinnati, all-time hits king. I mean, it is. If there's one thing I could talk more passionately about than cigars, it's baseball. I love baseball. I love the history of baseball. Behind me, there are dozens of history books. I've got all types of memorabilia in this room. Now, I don't know if you can see up here.
Yeah,
that is a piece of art that represents Great American Ballpark.
Oh yeah.
That one represents Riverfront Stadium. If you remember the rainbow-colored seating.
Oh yeah.
Then the farthest one represents Crosley Field.
Oh yeah.
And those are three pieces of art that I had that represent at least the three most well-known Cincinnati ballparks. And my most the thing that I hold near and dear is I have the complete collection of T206 baseball cards, Cincinnati Reds. Those were baseball cards that came in packs of cigarettes from the American Tobacco Company, and they were made from 1909 to 1911. I have the full complete set.
Wow.
Yeah, I have them hanging up on the other side of my office here.
You know, my first what I would consider real baseball card was a Frank Robinson.
Was he a Red or an Oriole?
He was a Red. No, it was his Red years. And that was
trade in baseball history,
dude. Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. So if we could talk about your what you would consider your top 5 Reds of all time,
team-wise,
yeah,
or player-wise,
yeah, individual player-wise.
I think individual player-wise, I will always put Pete Rose first. And look, he's the hits king, but he bled Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He bleeds Cincinnati to this day. He may live in Vegas. He still comes home to Cincinnati a lot. And he spent so many formative years in this. Cincinnati is what made Pete Pete. The passion, the baseball history. There's no wonder that he's Charlie Hustle and he's from Cincinnati. So Pete is my number one. Pete by far is number one. Number 2 is Barry Larkin. Barry Larkin to me represented everything you'd want in a player. To me, Barry Larkin was the hometown kid.
Yeah.
Taken over shortstop from a legendary ball player, stepped in, won the World Series. He was the first, I think, 30-30 shortstop of all time. He was really, I think, the change over from the shortstop that didn't have any power, that really didn't do much. He just had to be great with his glove, to being shortstops that later on came A-Rod and Jeter and all these guys. The reality was, I think Larkin was really the first kind of to be that. I think Tony Perez, big dog. If you meet so this is the other cool thing about the cigar business is I meet a lot of Cubans.
Yeah.
And so many Cubans that grew up in Miami who were that first generation off the island, either it being fleeing from Fidel or later on, whatever it may have been, there were no professional teams in Florida, and they knew in the 60s, they knew of Tony Perez, and Tony Perez went on to play for the Reds, and he made his name as a Red. And so many old Cubans that I meet know the Cincinnati Reds or were fans of Cincinnati Reds. Eric Espinosa is a big fan of Pete Rose and the Cincinnati Reds, because of Tony Perez. So I think Tony has a lot to do with what the Reds became in those years. In fact, if you talk to any of the guys on those teams, they'll tell you Tony was the leader. He was the man.
Absolutely.
So that's 3. You have to mention Johnny Bench, probably the greatest catcher of all time. Little do people know, Johnny was part Native American as well. He was from Oklahoma. Yep. And we had a very diverse team in the 70s there. We had Latino, we had Black, we had white, and little Native American. Johnny still, that was a guy who was drafted by the Reds and ended his career as a Red. So he was a lifer. Yeah. And Johnny truly, truly was a guy from Oklahoma who really transplanted into Cincinnati and made Cincinnati his home. And to this day, when you're in Cincinnati, he does commercials. He's everywhere. He is Cincinnati. It's really incredible. Yeah. And probably, I would say Frank Robinson, what could have been. Frank, it's tough because I think Frank, look, he won an NL MVP as a Red. Mm-hmm. Then he goes and he never won a World Series with the Reds, but he went on to go to a couple World Series with the Reds, but he wound up winning a World Series with Baltimore. Yeah. And he was the first and only player, I believe, to be an MVP in both leagues. He went on to be an MVP in the AL as well. What could have been? We have a statue of him outside of Great American Ballpark because he potential what he could have been, and he did win an NL MVP. So I had to give that to Frank Robinson. And believe it or not, I will have to say coming in at 6th place is Joey Votto. I'm a huge Joey Votto fan. He's I love Joey. So far, he's spent his entire career with Cincinnati. He's brought an NL MVP to us. And he's a hit machine, and he's a little bit down on his last couple of years, but there's something about him that I enjoy watching. Yeah.
Well, somebody that we talked to Hector about last week, and even though he's more known as a Met than a Red, I always consider Tom Seaver to be a Cincinnati Red.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Absolutely.
He still had some great years in that arm, and he gave a lot of great years to Cincinnati.
He did.
And, but yeah, Johnny Bench, as a kid, going to Riverfront with my dad and my brothers and seeing Johnny Bench and Morgan and Concepcion and Geronimo and
Morgan with the chicken wing.
Yeah. Just some of the most iconic players of all time, and being able to go to Riverfront and see them play. And Pete Rose, of course, who, so the Hall of Fame discussion with Pete Rose, I think it's about time that they bury the hatchet and give the man his spot in Cooperstown.
Here's a little fact: the Hall of Fame and MLB are two completely different companies.
Right.
Yep. They have absolutely no connection to each other.
Right.
He is banned by the MLB, although over the last 7-8 years, they've definitely allowed him to do a lot more with the Reds. We've now built we've retired his number officially. He has a statue outside of the stadium, and we couldn't do that. And finally, MLB said, "Hey, look, if you want to do ceremonies and stuff, he's allowed to do that." So they've definitely relaxed a bit. But the truth is that the Cooperstown could induct him whenever they wanted to. They could put him on any list because he's not banned by them. But for some reason, they keep using the MLB. Well, he's banned by MLB, but there is no connection. So I think it's kind of foolish. Yeah. On the other side is in Cooperstown, you can be inducted for many different things. You can be inducted for being a front office person. You can be inducted for being a player, a manager. You can be inducted for all these different things. Pete got caught gambling when he was a manager.
Right.
Okay, don't put him in as a manager. He's banned for life as a manager. Put him in as a player.
Right.
And to me, that's the fair thing. He was never caught gambling as a player. He's never been accused of being gambling as a baseball player, only when he became a manager. So to me, it's very simple. You put him on the list and let the voters decide. If I had a vote, I'd vote him in right away.
Yeah.
As Pete says, my baseball bat, my cleats, my uniforms, they're all in Cooperstown. For some reason, they're not letting the guy who wore those things in Cooperstown. So if my bat is good enough for Cooperstown, why aren't I? And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tragedy that he's still doesn't have a plaque on the wall at that place.
Yeah.
And as a player, I mean, he's the greatest hitter of all time.
No one will ever have 4,000 plus hits again. It's just it's impossible now. It's like Cy Young. People are never going to come close to those kind of hits.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of it. Look at a guy like Jeter, who's definitely kind of our generation player. And when he got 3,000 hits, that was a huge milestone.
Absolutely.
And then you think about Pete with 4,200 plus hits, and you go, "What? How is that even? How is that even possible?"
Yeah.
It wasn't like Pete just stuck around and had a bunch of crappy years. I mean, Pete was still getting hits, last couple of years of his career. And I have to tell you, in '89, the team he put together, and Lou Piniella wind up taking over. That 1990 Reds World Series team that swept the A's, that was Pete's team.
Oh, yeah.
Lou Piniella managed them, but that was Pete's team. And so, look, I'm a home guy, right? But Pete, I absolutely deserves a place in the hall, and I hope they do it before he passes.
I agree.
Just to update people, got people asking what we're smoking tonight. We are smoking the new collaboration between Crown Heads and Drew Estate, and it is the La Coalición. I knew I was going to butcher it.
You could say it the white guy way and say La Coalition, but it's you got to put that you got to put that little hot sauce on there.
Yeah, a
little hot sauce. I like that
hot sauce. And due to Miguel's got a little cold going on, he is not smoking tonight. And I'm guessing you're not sipping on any rum tonight.
I am not. I'm actually drinking diet soda.
Yeah, same here.
But I did have some rum earlier today because I'm a firm believer that when you're sick and you have a sore throat, a little bit of liquor, especially rum, will help kind of clear it up, man.
Absolutely.
So I do drink a little rum every day just to hopefully burn off some of these sickies away,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Miguel, for us being Minnesota Twins fans, 2019 was a really fantastic season for us. We were really grateful for it. Not only did the team do really well, but it was just an incredible amount of fun to watch. It was such a fun season to watch, and it wasn't just the Twins. Major League Baseball was a blast to watch this season, just because they were hitting the ball like crazy this season. So, what do you think about the upcoming prospects for 2020 for Cincinnati Reds?
We made a big move. Mike Moustakas, we just signed Moustakas to the largest free agent contract we've ever given out. And from my understanding, I have a lot of friends that work for the Cincinnati Reds. So besides the rumor mills out there, but some very good intel, they're not done yet. And they may be giving out a bigger contract to another free agent very soon.
Yeah.
So I think for Cincinnati, the future is bright. We've had some rough years. Last year, though, this season, 2019, was a lot of fun because it was our 150th anniversary. So we had about 20 throwback uniforms, and we were celebrating all types of stuff all season long. So even though we didn't perform the best, it was a fun season to watch. I do like watching the Twins quite a bit. They have such a great history, and Rod Carew came through there, and the great Panamanian hitter. And so I think the future is bright for Cincinnati. I think our division, if you look at the NL Central for the last couple of years, on paper you would thought the Cubs run away with it every year, and they haven't. It's like no one wants our division. Cardinals win, then lose. The Cubs do the same. Milwaukee does the same. And literally the Reds, as bad as our season was last year, up to like a month before the season ended, numerically wise, we were still in it,
right,
in the division. That's because these teams that we have, I don't know what was going on. It's like for the last 2 years, no one wants that division. So we believe that a few minor adjustments will be very competitive in that market. And look, we have to deal with some big guys. Cardinals are, I don't know how the hell they do it, but they always put together a solid team. It seems like every year. The Cubs obviously have some deep pockets. Milwaukee, they've got Christian Yelich. They have some good solid guys playing for them. I think the only team in our division that is really sucking wind right now are the Pirates, and they're going through their troubles. But I think we have a good opportunity, and I'm excited and I'm saddened by next year's baseball. Baseball in Cincinnati is Marty Brennaman's voice.
Oh.
I am a baseball radio guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Marty Brennaman. When you say baseball is Marty Brennaman to me.
Yeah.
His voice is baseball to a guy from Cincinnati. And so the fact that this was his last year, and next year when I turn on that radio, when I turn on my baseball at bat app to listen to the game, whatever city I'm in, it will not sound the same to me.
Yeah.
So 2020 will be a very interesting year for me because the voice just will not be the same.
Do you have a new voice yet? Do they know?
Yeah, we have a couple. We have a couple of guys that are going to be rotating in and out, but we don't have. I don't think they've given the job solidly to anybody. I think we've got a couple of guys rotating in and out, and we'll see how it goes. But it's not Marty. It's not Marty. But I'm happy for Marty. I mean, the guy has had that job for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
He took over for Al Michaels, in the 70s.
Wow.
He earned his retirement, but I agree with you. I mean, for me as a kid, it was Marty Brennaman and
the old left-hander, Joe Nuxall.
Joe Nuxall. Thank you. And that was, I mean, just hearing them say the phrase "the big red machine" and hearing that iconic "this one belongs to the Reds." I mean, you can't get any more baseball than that. I mean, that is part of. It's part of, and it's not just part of sports history. I'm sorry, but it's part of American history.
It is.
Hearing those phrases and he will definitely be missed.
Hi, Cubs red.
Well, then you got Harry Carey, and I mean, but some of those iconic. But
yeah.
If you think about it, there have been a lot of broadcasters, who they get to a certain point and they just want to hang it up, and I understand. He's going to be missed, but he is definitely part of American lore. And
what I loved about Marty was just he ended up in the commissioner's office constantly throughout his career. He would always get in trouble for something he said.
Yeah.
He was accused once of trying to start a riot in Chicago. I mean, he had no problem calling out the Reds. This team sucks. You know, our guys can't lay down bunts. Who the hell are these guys? He had no problem criticizing our own team.
Yeah.
And as a fan, I love that I could expect from Marty the truth and not just fluff. When
Absolutely.
The team sucked, he said the team sucked. I mean, in reality is, as he says, he's part of the old guard. He said, any guy like me starting out today wouldn't get this job, wouldn't come 10 feet from this job. They wouldn't allow me to even have a microphone.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Marty. And he has a beautiful wife, and he has a beautiful retirement. He's just a wonderful guy. He deserves it. But as a fan, it sucks.
It's going to take some years to get used to.
Yep.
Steve's got a good comment here. He says, please don't wear the cutoff jerseys again in 2020 in Cincy. And Grandpa Ross is going to hopefully bring life back to the Cubs. I think I've heard mixed reviews of Ross, coming into that role. I think he's going to do a good job. So that's just me. Obviously, of course, he's not experienced as a manager, but I think, I don't know. I think he has a good rapport with the people that he's played with in the past. And I think that's going to translate into management.
I think I believe a lot of way that Coop believes that you should pay your dues as a manager and go through the minors and learn that way and come up.
Yeah, I see that.
That doesn't guarantee success, and just because you're a player that retired, that can you can win a World Series. My vote is I'm still scratching my head on that one. Hopefully, the Cubs, for mom's sake. Look, my mom's, her whole life she never saw a World Series, and then when she saw the Cubs World Series, that she was crying. You know what I mean? So I'm very happy for them. But I would tell Cubs fans, go sit down. You have a World Series. The last one we won was 1990. It's been quite some time. I would like to have one more World Series by the time I die.
Yeah.
Well, Hector last week said the second you guys mentioned Reds, I give the over-under at least 12 minutes on Miguel going off on the Reds. So you've hit the over.
I've hit the over. Yeah.
We hit the over.
Yeah. I'm if I'm not, my other side of my office, I have bobbleheads, I have cards framed, I've got baseballs. It's a sickness, man.
Well, and going through your feed, I would say it's about 40% cigars, 40% Reds, and about 20% random comedy or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a little shift. And let's talk about our useless fact of the week.
Yes.
I like that little shift, like a baseball shift.
Exactly. So I always try to find a useless fact of the week that somehow relates to the person we're talking to. And Miguel, being from Crown Head Cigars, I started looking up stuff. And so you think about a crown. What is a crown? Well, it's this thing, king wears a crown on his head, big, tall, gold thing with jewels all over it. But the crown actually has a little bit of a history that goes well beyond that, way back in the day. And the crown actually started out as a thing that was actually called it was called a diadem, which was actually just a sort of a strap that went around the head. And we're going back to like 400 BC, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And the diadem was worn actually by most people, by most men, worn around the head, and then through the years it embellished a little bit, and then you had things like the turban, and then people of note, people who had money or people who were royalty or leadership,
stature, they
would actually wear the turban up higher to give themselves, say, hey, I'm somebody. And the headgear, where is it here? The originally cloth, and then it was ornamented over time with gold leaf or jewels and things like that based on somebody's status. The earliest examples were found in Persia, Macedonia. There's a shout out to Risty from JSK, Macedonia, and then Greece, known by modern people as a turban, which this is something I didn't know. The turban and the word turban and tiara are actually interchangeable. At least they were back then in the ancient language. So you see a princess tiara, well, that's the same word for turban. So actually,
if I can interject for 1 second, being from Cincinnati, we are known as the Queen City. We actually have a building downtown Cincinnati, the Great American Insurance Company, and they built a part of the roof of that skyscraper, a tiara, because we are the Queen City, and it overlooks Great American Ballpark. Go ahead.
Nice.
No, I love it.
I love that. That's awesome. And so then, known by modern people as a turban or a tiara, the king would be the only one to tie it up higher than the commoners, and over time it became more ornate and spread across different kingdoms. Eventually, in Western cultures, it became the tall, ornate gold and jeweled headpiece we have come to know and love. So that's a little history behind.
I like it.
The crown.
That was a good one.
The Pope, his actual big crown that he only wears on certain occasions, that's actually called a tiara. That is actually called the Pope tiara. That is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I like that too.
So, and it looks like a turban. So
it does. Yeah.
Well, I'm learning things here.
There you go. There is your useless fact of the week.
Like it.
And now it is time for Numero de los Muertos.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly.
All right, guys. The number this week is 12.
The number is 12.
And this number is United States only. and the first death happening in 1963, and it is a specific profession.
So, since 1963, 12 people in the U.S. have died from this, and it's a profession.
And what is the, so 12 people have died of this since 1963.
It's a profession
from doing this job. Yep.
Is it men or women or a mix of both?
Both.
How about window cleaner on skyscrapers?
Wow, that's a really good guess. Nope.
Damn, you had me going there for a minute, man.
Is it
good guess, Steve? Not professional wrestling.
Is it eating Skyline chili?
It is not.
What a way to go, though.
Just so you know, as a kid, I ate more than 12 conies at one time. It didn't kill me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Football.
No, sir. Nope.
Is it sports related?
No.
Not sports.
Entertainment related.
It's entertainment.
Stunt doubles.
Yes.
Is it? Miguel just
nailed it.
Knocked it out of the park. Stunt doubles.
Yep. Stunt doubles. So a couple ones of note. Vin Diesel has had 2 stunt doubles die in the Triple X series. And then one of the latest ones, Deadpool 2, the lucky hero girl, her superpower was just being incredibly lucky. Remember?
I have not seen either of the Deadpool movies.
Gosh.
I know. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, her stunt double was unlucky.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So basically, rule of thumb is if you're a stunt performer and they offer you the job to be Vin Diesel's stunt double, turn it down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Turn it down. Yep.
Yeah. I'd say that's a safe bet.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was a good one.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah, Miguel. Usually, I gotta milk some more hints in there, and you hit it out of the park.
Nice. So let's move into a little bit of our rapid fire lightning round. So Miguel, if you could choose to hear the thoughts of one living person for 10 minutes, who would you choose and why?
Oh my. For 10 minutes.
You could hear their thoughts.
My wife. How about that? Let's go with that. My wife, because I'd love to know what she really thinks.
Dude, you're brave, because I would
so
never
brave.
I would never want to hear. I would never want to know what's going on up there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
You are brave. That is.
Yeah.
I would be rocking in the corner. No,
in the fetal position, like, oh, stop! I don't turn it off. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Not that evil.
Turn it off, please. I love that.
All right, if so, choose, and I have a feeling based on our conversation, I know what this will be, but choose one of the following. You could score a goal in a hockey game as a goalie. You could score a touchdown as a defensive lineman, or you could hit a home run as a starting pitcher.
I would hit a home run as a starting pitcher.
Yeah. I had a feeling that was going to be.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what? Yeah.
That's where the smart money was.
Pitchers are not known as being heavy hitters. So it's pretty rare to see a starting pitcher hit one out. So
Bert Blyleven has 3, and he often talks about all 3 of those.
Yeah, 3. That's unheard of. 1 is unheard of.
Right.
3 is like legendary. And Miguel, if you were about to get into a fight,
Okay.
what soundtrack music would come on? What would your soundtrack music be when you're about to throw down?
I've thought about this before. You talk about like soundtracks in life and different parts of your life.
Yeah, man.
It would be slow motion fight, and it would be the most mariachi,
Yes.
tequila drinking, like just yeah. I mean, just in slow motion, El Mariachi kind of straight. That's what it would be.
Nice.
That's what it would be for me.
Would you say you have a plethora of guns?
I have a plethora of. Hey, here's a quick funny little story. When I worked for Tarano, we distributed Sam Lucia's cigar, his cigars, and he had launched the original Luchador.
Yeah.
On the bottom of the original box, it said like 20 cigars with a plethora of tobacco or something.
No way!
A reference to that movie. Yeah.
I need that box.
Yeah. It was like one of those little inside joke things, and it was just fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
So good.
Would you say I have a plethora? All right.
Oh yes, guapo.
We're going to steal their women and rape their cows.
And to rape the horses and to ride off on the women.
Great movie.
Great movie. And that's for our friend Bear Duplessis, who thinks Chevy Chase is not funny. So that's for you.
Oh. Chevy Chase, see reference, Three Amigos. That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
exactly. So if you could give one piece of advice to new cigar consumers, what would it be?
Well, I find myself giving a lot of advice to new cigar consumers because I still do a lot of events as a national sales manager. Still get to go around and meet a lot of people, and a lot of guys will ask for advice. And the first thing I tell them is, whenever someone tells you not to smoke a cigar, you should try that cigar. And when anyone tells you that this is the greatest cigar they ever had, you should try it for yourself. I think the best piece of advice you can give people is to try cigars and to make your own decision. I've met guys that, who get into these chat rooms or get in these blogs, and maybe they bash on boutiques, or maybe they talk up boutiques the best, or they bash the big brands or whatever it is. And I meet a guy who goes, you know what, man, I love my boutiques, but I still love smoking a punch, and it's like, dude, whatever you like, you should like. Don't let other people make that decision for you.
Amen.
And find out what you love. And when you find something you love, don't be ashamed. Love it, promote it.
Yeah.
This is a small industry, so when you fly that flag, it means a lot, man.
Preach.
Yeah, that's I love that. When you find something you like, don't be ashamed.
That's right.
I like the way you put that. That's a great way to put that in, and it is even the big brands, even the so-called big brands. It's a small industry. This is not a big industry. So even the so-called big brands, they're still the tobacco is still grown in the same fields, rolled by the same hands, rolled in the same way with the same passion. Yeah, maybe bigger numbers. Yeah, maybe bigger this, bigger that. But it's still. I like that. Don't be ashamed of what you like. I dig that.
People like Bud Light, for God's sake. So,
well, let's not get carried away, Gary. Let's not get carried away.
I'll meet a guy. Look, I worked for CAO for a lot of years, and I'd meet a guy who goes, "Oh, I love Brasilia. I love MX2," and then he'd say, "Hey, by the way, I also like Moon Trance too." I go, "Oh, man, that's all right, man. Whatever you like is what you like."
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is go into a liquor store and see how many brands of rum or bourbon or tequila that are out there. There's something for everybody. And if it's a Macanudo, if it's a Crown Heads, if it's a Drew Estate, if it's a Roma Craft, or my good friend, the Macedonian King JSK, if it makes you happy, smoke it, promote it, and share it with your guys.
Amen.
Yeah.
And by the way, Michael Lorenzen, who's a pitcher of the Cincinnati Reds, has hit a lot of home runs. 7 for his career, by the way.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. If you look him up, you'll see he looks like a bodybuilder, and he's our pitcher.
So he hits more home runs than the entire Orioles organization.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to cigar retailers, specifically brick and mortar, what advice would you give them?
You customer engagement is the most important thing. I've met so many consumers that, I mean, look, I've been doing 17 years, and when you do events, you interact more with consumers than retailers. On a regular visit, you work more, you talk more with the retailer, right? So at events, I'll meet a guy. Let's say I'm just picking a city, Indianapolis, because you're from Indiana, and maybe we're on the west side, and I'm like, hey man, so where do you live? Oh, I live on the north side. I drive past 4 cigar shops just to come to this one.
Yeah.
Wow, tell me about that. It's, oh, that guy ignored me, or I picked up some cigar and he laughed at me or criticized, whatever it is. Customer engagement, how you talk to customers. We want people to be in this industry. We want people to come and enjoy the industry. We want people to look at this hobby as something that's fun. And we tend to get very cliquish,
Yeah.
Oh, you like this brand, you're stupid, or you support that guy, or look, a cigar shop should be a place where a guy comes to relax, to learn, and to really enhance his hobby.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I was a kid and we would go to the hobby shop, it didn't matter if you were there buying baseball cards or things for rockets or remote control cars. Like, you were very much engaged. It was like a safe place, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And some cigar lounges can be very divisive. And I tell guys, look, this is a hobby. You want to make a place where hobbyists want to come, they want to spend their money, and they want to engage with each other.
Yeah.
So my advice to new shop owners is, don't make this your hangout spot. Make it a hangout spot for your consumers, man.
Amen.
Yeah. Great way to put it.
And here's a little, there was a shop once in Indiana. He would get so angry with people changing the channel for the different news. So he put up 3 TVs, one on Fox, one on CNN, and one on MSNBC. turned off the sound and put the words.
Yeah.
And said, there you go. We're all gonna watch what we, whatever we like, and we're all gonna get along. So yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So give us give everybody a little bit of a rundown, because obviously there's always new stuff happening, but the thing that really keeps things moving and is a really great staple of any cigar brand is their core lines. So give everybody a good reminder of those core lines that really make Crown Heads who they are.
Well, we make several different lines, and the first 4 lines I tell everyone to try is 4 Kicks and Le Carême. Those are 2 lines that are made for us by El Padrino, the Godfather, Ernesto Perez Carrillo. He makes those at his factory, La Alianza. He won Cigar of the Year last year. He's a legend in the business. Those are 2 of many cigars that he makes for us, but those are 2 that I think what I call our core 4. The other 2 are Jericho Hill and La Imperiosa. Those cigars are made for us by Don Pepin Garcia, the Garcia family from the My Father Cigar family. They make those 2 blends for us. So those are our core 4. If you can smoke a 4 Kicks, a Le Carême, Jericho Hill, a La Imperiosa, one of those 4 cigars, I think you're in really good hands. And I think that one of those Crown Heads will turn you onto who we are as a company, and to really understand our blending style, our taste, what we have to offer. And so those are what I love to tell people. Our core 4, those are our brands that really represent who we are. I think today, though, because of the new releases, Juarez and La Coalición are getting out there, and I believe that our core 4 will turn into I got to think of something that rhymes with 6. You know what I mean? Because I think Juarez and La Coalición will be part of that mix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, look, we have Headley Grange, we have Luminosa, we've got all these different lines that we do, Crown Heads, Court, all these great blends. But if you smoke a 4 Kicks, if you smoke a Le Carême, La Imperiosa, Jericho Hill, I think you'll be a fan.
Yeah.
That Tennessee Waltz, though.
Oh
yeah.
Waltz, yeah.
And
that's the other thing. I think once you get in Crown Heads and you taste all of our limited edition, state exclusives, and things like that, I think there's something for everybody, and I think a lot of people enjoy the things that we put out and the limited releases that we do. We don't make them, I always say there should be someone that comes out with a joke cigar, limited edition, and just do like one box. And just ship it to one store, right? And then just like that's super limited edition, you know what I mean?
Wait, one cigar?
One cigar in a 5-count box, one cigar, and just loads of just leaf tobacco.
Yes,
and and I think that should be the kind of the joke, right? Because it seems like, but I think our limited editions we make them readily available to all of our accounts. So when you are a Crown Heads retailer, you can get your hands on everything we make, our core, our limited edition. And once a year, we make even our state exclusives available to all of our retailers in the country. It's not like you got to spend this much so you can buy this or get your hands on this or get this super rare thing. We don't do that at Crown Heads. Our retailers, we want to make sure that when a consumer walks into a cigar shop in SoCal, in Milwaukee, in Cincinnati, in Tampa, or Houston, Texas, that retailer, whatever retailer it is, who's part of the Crown Heads retail family, that consumer can walk in and get their hands on almost anything Crown Heads almost at any time of the year. And I think we take a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in that as a national sales manager.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're coming to the close of 2019. And 2019 has been, another really good year for Crown Heads as a brand and as a company. But, going into 2020, I assume, all the companies, there's always projects that are being worked on in the background. And obviously, we don't want you to give away anything, but, can you give us an idea that, give us some sort of a sneak preview, or just let us know that Crown Heads is definitely working on some cool stuff for 2020?
We are. We're working on a lot of very unique limited edition offerings throughout the year. I think what you're going to see the first half of 2020 is really us spending a lot of time promoting La Colección. This is a project that we worked really hard on in 2019, and it's come out the end of 2019. So for us, the first 6 months, I think, of 2020 will be a big part of representing La Colección and getting it out there in the market and making sure it gets in the hands of every consumer that's interested in it. But I can tell you that John Huber, he's like a kid in a candy store with the factories that we work with. I think just today or yesterday, he posted a picture of 5 or 6 new blends he's working on in the office. And we realized that there's only so much shelf space, right? And that's what's fun about doing limited editions is maybe it's a size, maybe it's a particular tobacco. It could be really anything that you say, all right, this won't fit in to the core line, or we can't take any more shelf space up for this, but we want to do this fun size. And that's how like the Le Carême Bellicoso Fino came about. We don't do a lot of Figurados, but John and I are a huge fan of that size. And so that I can tell you the first 6 months of 2020, you'll definitely see some really fun, very interesting limited edition projects that are coming out. That'll be a lot of fun. And I think this year's trade show at PCA Las Vegas, I think you'll see another new edition added to our family of portfolio. And the company just continues to grow. I think we have the best hats in the game.
Yeah, that hat is ridiculous.
By the way, this is New Era, the official on-field supplier of baseball casts for MLB. And we do a lot of great hats, and we love doing the swag. And I think you'll see a lot of that in 2020. And hopefully I'll be back on your guys' show to talk about some of the new projects sooner than later.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. And that I agree 100% that Bellicoso Fino in the Le Carême is that size. There's something about it that it pops, and it's I think that's definitely in my opinion, that's my favorite one of that blend.
Yeah, that's the Johnny Bench of all the sizes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well, this La Coalición.
Well done. Well done.
Dude.
Yeah, this thing, he's out smoking me like crazy.
Hammering this because it's just delicious.
I realize that I am a bit biased, but and for me to be able to sit down and to light the La Coalición, the final product, and to see all the work, and I'm very privileged because I get to see all the background work that goes into it, and to have Willie Herrera, who to me is just one of the guys that is doing really interesting things out there. John Huber, the guys I've respect for a very, very long time. And for this project, all the work and the final smoke, that final art, that final piece of art that they've delivered. I'm on a mission to get it in everyone's hands. I absolutely love the blend. And John Huber, if he was on here, he would tell you, he goes, look, there's certain blends that I smoke more than others. There's blends that I prefer more of our own blends. Yeah. And to me, La Coalición is more up my style. It's a solid, medium-bodied cigar.
Yep.
I don't smoke a lot of full-bodied stuff, so I don't smoke a lot of La Imperiosa, but I do smoke a lot of Jericho Hill, and I do smoke a lot of, La Coalición and Fort Tips and Lake Karem. And so that La Coalición is built from my palate, and so I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. So every week we're going to talk about notable smokables right now, Miguel, and every week Garrett and I we bring up a couple cigars that we've smoked in the last week or so that were interesting to us, whether it was a cigar that's new to the market or a cigar that's been around for a while that we just haven't had in a while. Mm-hmm. I want to bring up the first one that was notable for me this week was, so for the last few years, HVC cigars, and we had Rainier on the show a few weeks ago. He's put out a Black Friday cigar, and the release came out this year. And I split a box with somebody that I know and got 10 of those cigars. And that is a nice little, it's a short cigar too, but that is a nice little cigar. So that was one that I was excited to try. I hadn't had it in previous years, but that little HVC Black Friday was a good cigar.
Yeah. And I was up at Sodi's Cigar Bar in Stillwater, Minnesota, or Oak Park Heights, Minnesota.
Oak Park Heights, yeah.
I was gifted a 14-year-old Perdomo Silvio, and I'd never had one before.
Wow, one of the best boxes in the industry when it came out,
dude. And I was extremely grateful, and that thing was amazing. Just blew me away. Yeah. And I love, when you get that cigar that's been aged well, mm-hmm. you can taste that age on it.
Yeah. And when it was stored properly the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah. Fantastic.
So Miguel, we know usually people, who work for cigar companies, obviously they spend the majority of their time smoking their own stuff. But is there anything interesting, if you reach for somebody else on the shelf, anything interesting you've tried lately that you thought, hey man, that's a good cigar?
Well, I'm enjoying the Baca by Skip Martin. I like Skip and Michael Rosales. I think those guys are great guys, and so I've always a lot of interest in what they're doing. And the new Espinosa Escuro. That is just a cigar that is just, there's some silkiness to that smoke that is very, very unique.
Yeah.
But a cigar that maybe is not on the profile of a lot of boutique smokers, something I smoked recently that I was blown away by, is an Altadis product.
Okay.
H. Upman, the Hispaniola. It has the second band. It says like Jose Mendez in it. Mm-hmm. That cigar, a sample that was given to me by Brad Winstead, who works for Altadis, who runs their CDM side. He used to be like their VP of sales, and he's just a great guy. He gave it to me at IPCPR. And I put it in my humidor at home, my personal humidor, and whatever, it got kind of tossed around. And so he gave me about 2 or 3 of them. And I have now smoked that cigar probably 3 weeks in a row. It is beautiful. The wrapper has got to be one of the silkiest wrappers I've ever seen on a cigar. It was just, it burnt so beautiful. The carbon ring was razor thin. And it literally tasted like you were smoking a piece of like cedar. I mean, it just had this deep cedar aroma, medium bodied, and once in a while, the cigar that maybe you're not thinking, you know what I mean, that this is going to be, and it turned out to be a hell of a cigar. And when I'm in a lot of retail shops, I always say, "Hey, Miguel, grab a cigar before you go on me." And once in a while, I'll grab that cigar now, and people will go, "Really?" And I go, "Man, it's that good. It's
nice.
That good."
Nice. I'll have to reach for that one. My last one that was notable this week is actually one of my favorite budget sticks. It's sort of a catalog brand, really, that I get from CI from time to time, and it's the Ramon Bueso Genesis.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yep.
And I tell you, it's one of those budget cigars that you can keep around at all times, and it's it's another one of those cigars that if it happens to fall on the ground while you're shoveling snow or whatever it is you're doing, you're not gonna cry about it, but it's a good, tasty little cigar. So I smoked one of those a few days ago.
It's been a while, man. For me, my last one is the Archetype Dream State.
Oh yeah, Ventura.
Yeah. Yep. Great medium, mild to medium cigar.
Okay.
Creamy.
I really enjoy their Psycho 7 Nicaragua.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We talked to Michael Giannini about that one a couple months ago, and I tell you that Indiana Ortez, man, she's making
on fire.
She's making good inroads in the cigar community. She's got a lot of talent, I think, and hopefully one of these days we'll get a chance to talk to her as well.
She's young, she's passionate, and she's great at social media.
Yeah,
and that Psycho 7 Nicaragua is just, I mean, what a great Connecticut cigar, and that's one of those cigars you meet guys and they're like, I don't like Connecticut. You're like, bro, listen, this is one you have to try.
Yeah.
And it's that good. And so I think she's going to be around a long time. And I think it's great for someone like her, who is Nicaraguan and very proud to be Nicaraguan, representing her country and doing such a great job at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, for those of you watching and listening, just a little bit of an idea of some stuff we have coming up to close out 2019. Next week on December 10th, we're going to talk to Terrence Riley from Aganor Salif. And the following week on December 17th, our final show of 2019, we're going to talk to none other than Justin Andrews from Diesel Cigars. And then we have some cool stuff coming up early in 2020 or 2020. My God, it's 2020. Man, time flies. It's 2020 coming up. That's bonkers. Keep watching and keep listening to How About That Cigar. Keep checking out howaboutthatcigar.com. Miguel, give us a final word on where our listeners and our viewers can find out more about Crown Head Cigars.
Well, I think first and foremost, I would tell people to follow John Huber on Instagram if you want to be in the know. He is at The Crowned Heads. You can find him on Instagram and on Twitter on that. If you're interested in following me, you can follow me at MIGSCH1980. You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter, or you can be friends with me on Facebook. And I will fill your feed full of Crown Head cigars and baseball stuff. But if you get a chance, check out our website, www.crownheads.com. But I tell everyone, if you want to be in the know on Crown Heads, follow us on Instagram. That's where you will find out everything. And that is a place you will find information on us.
Awesome. Hey, Miguel, thank you very much, honestly, brother, for giving us some of your time this evening. We appreciate it.
Well, just in case, you guys are twins, right? You got twins. I'm a Reds, right? That's NLAL. If for some reason in the galaxy comes together and we end up in the World Series, we'll have to do a special World Series show together. Okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
Fingers crossed.
Be awesome.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic.
Thank you, guys. And thank you to all your viewers, man. On behalf of Crown Heads, the entire family, thank you for the support. And thank you for letting us have a little time.
Absolutely.
Been a blast.
Absolutely. So again, thanks to all the viewers and listeners. And if you guys have any questions, hit us up on howaboutthatcigar.com. You can send us an email directly from there. And until we see you guys next time, burn cigars,
not bridges.
Take care. See ya.
Thanks, guys.